Hey everyone, welcome back to Sweet Yellow House. This is part one of my Halloween series, and if you haven't subscribed, please do and hit that button for me. So let's get started with project one. Is a candle holder that I got off of Facebook Marketplace, and I think it was a set of two, but I'm not sure where the other one is. So I'm going to start by just kind of cleaning off the dust of this, and then I'm going to pull off these little beads here. I didn't need them or want them on there. I have another idea in mind, so I just went ahead and pulled those off. This one I couldn't get off, so I just kind of clipped the end of that and clipped it off of there. So I grabbed my creative paper clay and I'm going to use it in this mold. I got this little mold. It was a set of two off of Amazon, and anything that I use that you can get off Amazon, I will link below in the description box. So I'm making random a number of these just because I'm not sure how many I'm going to use. So I just molded those and I'm just pulling them out now. It's okay if these aren't perfect. I mean, this is Halloween stuff. It's not supposed to, be perfect and stuff. So what I'm going to do is stick some skulls on the little stems that I pulled the beads off of. I'm just going to stick them down in there and they stay really well there. So the second thing I'm going to do is make little balls of clay and stick those in the center of the flowers, just so that the skulls have something more to stick to. So I'm going to use my Titebond and stick the little ball of clay and glue that to the candle holder. And once I have that down, then I will use the Titebond again and glue the little skull to the ball of clay. Hopefully that made some sense. So once I have all of that down, what I do is I use my tape to just keep it in place so they don't slide off or move around on me. This mold is from Prima. It's called Wings and Bones. And I'm going to use one of the side views of the skull to put on the candle holder in a different area. So I make 3 of those. The candle holder has 3 sides. So I just make 3 of those so that way I will have one for each side, and I just use my Titebond again and stick those down. These are going on a much flatter surface, so I don't have to kind of manipulate that space with any little balls of clay to kind of even that out. So I'm just putting the Titebond on, spreading it around, and I'm going to apply those and then again hold those in place with some tape. I'm going to go ahead and let this sit overnight and let the glue and that clay harden up so that when I go out to spray paint it, everything is already dry and I don't have to worry about it. So I'm just peeling off the tape, and then I'm going to take that outside and spray it with the Rust-Oleum in black satin. So here you see that everything is black. You kind of lose those details with everything being one color. So I'm going to get my gilding wax in the Empire Gold, and I'm going to begin to highlight all of those really cool details that we put on there. And also too, around the flowers, just the tips of the flowers to kind of bring out those details as well. I am making a lot of Halloween things this year just because last year I was sick during Halloween, just coming out of the hospital. And so I missed a lot of the really great, fun activities and stuff that my family and I get to do with decorating and everything else. So this year we're going to do it big and celebrate and just have a really good time with it. Project 2 is this covered bowl. I got this at Goodwill some time ago, and I just kind of didn't really know at this point what I was going to do with it, so I just decided to decorate it for Halloween. So I'm going to start off with removing that glass part and cleaning up the other parts of this, which I think are made out of some kind of resin. So I'm just cleaning those up, getting all the dust off of that, and then I'm going to get my rich black and the folk art home decor chalk paint and just put some of that in the cup. It was a little bit thick. I think I've had it for a little bit of a while. That's probably why it thickened up, but it was a little bit thick, so I just decided to add some water to that. And I just added water till it got to a consistency that I liked. I just wanted it a little bit thinner so it didn't kind of clump up in all the details on the top of that. I could have totally taken this outside and sprayed it, but I think it was dark or something when I started on this, and I didn't want to go out there and risk getting bit up by mosquitoes, so I just decided to paint it inside. So with this, with the paint being a little bit thin, it did cover really well, but I still went ahead and did 2 coats on here. I dried between the coats with my embossing gun. It looks really pretty at this point, but I wanted a little bit more detail on there. So I grabbed my baking soda and I actually add quite a bit of it to the paint. And I'm going to actually use this same paint for all of the projects that I am doing today. So just so you know, it's the same container of paint used through the whole video. So now that I have that all mixed up and it has some really good texture in it, I'm just going to go over the bottom and the top again, just kind of pouncing that around and making sure I'm getting some of that detail. I wanted it to look more like maybe a cast iron or something like that. So that's why I decided to throw the baking soda in there. And again, I dried that with the embossing gun. So I decided that I wanted to make some more castings using the molds that I have. And so, but I'm going to use this with, I'm going to use the resin this time, not the paper clay. I'm not really sure at this point which part of these molds I'm going to use, so I'm just making kind of molds of everything that I think I might possibly use. So that you may not see all of this stuff being used throughout this video. You might see some being used in part 2 or part 3 or part 4. So that's why you just see me making a bunch of stuff here. So I'm going to add this golden titanium white. And This is my favorite way to color my resin. So I just feel like you don't have to use a whole lot. It doesn't mess with the ratio of that, and you get really good color with that. So the orange mold is actually from Michael's. I purchased it a year and a half ago right before I got sick, and I never did get to use it. It is a really deep mold, so I only actually filled those up a little bit over halfway. So I didn't see those at Michael's this year, so I'm not sure, but I'll look for them and see if they're still available. The other brown mold, like I said, is from Amazon, is sold in a set of 2. The gray molds are from Prima, and one of them is called Wings and Bones, and the other one is called Skull and Bones. So I let those sit overnight so that they could set up, and now here I'm just going to take those out of the molds and see how things turned out. So everything turned out really well, and I went ahead and decided that I want to give them a little bit, more detail, bring that detail out. So I'm grabbing the DIY dark wax, and I'm going to cover these with wax. So the small skulls do have somewhat of a texture on them, so you could put the wax on these and go ahead and wipe them back immediately, because it has a little bit of a rougher texture on those. The bigger skulls, because of the way the mold is I think it's more for like chocolate or something, so it's super smooth on the inside. In that case, what you want to do is put the wax on there and then let that wax set up before you wipe it off, because if you go and wipe it off right as you put it on, it's just going to wipe right off of there. So let that wax set up for 5-10 minutes, and then go back and wipe it back gently so you don't remove all that wax. Grabbing the Gorilla Glue, I think this might be my favorite glue at this moment. I really like it because it's like instant hold, and it just, things go quicker with it. So I am using this glue quite a bit through this video. So I'm just grabbing some of those small skulls and putting them on the top where I think I might want those. And I will do the same thing to the bottom of this. I thought about adding a lot of other like borders and from molds and this and that, but it already has so much detail on it that I just didn't want to overdo it. And even the bowl itself has like ripples in it, and it just all has so much detail. So I cleaned the bowl, which is made of glass, and got all the dust out of it and screwed it back onto the bottom, making sure that I didn't tighten it to shatter that glass there. And that's how that turned out. I could have like gilded the top of it, like just going over the details with gold. But like I said, I didn't want to add so much stuff to it. I don't know if I might go back later and do it. I'm not sure. Let me know what you guys think, if you think I should, or if I should just leave it like it is. Project 3 is I believe it's like a wine box, I want to say, to put wine in I'm not sure, but I think that's what it is. So I've had this for quite a while, probably about 2 or 3 years. I've actually used this in my decor some. But I decided that I was going to sacrifice it for some of my Halloween decor. So again, using that same paint with the baking soda in it, I'm just going through and going to paint some of the areas on the box. I just went over this one time. It took the paint really well, so I didn't have to go over it multiple times. So once I let that paint kind of set up for a little bit, I went back and I started to remove the little, I don't know, decorations here. They were just kind of hammered in there. So I just kind of wedged them up and then pulled it out, which I'm glad it came out with not a whole lot of damage or anything. They came out pretty smoothly. So So these are the ones that came out of the orange mold, and I wanted to add kind of more detail to it. So I took that same paint and I colored in the eye sockets and the nose, and I did go over the mouth just to kind of bring out the teeth a little. So I went over it and then I wiped it back with the cloth there. So using that Gorilla Glue, super glue gel, again, I'm just going to go ahead and add the glue to the back of those skulls and press them down to cover those lighter spots where the other decorations came off of. I styled this with some moss coming out of it. I just stuffed some bags down in the bottom and then put the moss on top with a hand coming out. That's just what I came up with. So hopefully you think it's as funny as I do. So project 4 is this crystal candle holder. I had 2 of these, and the other one of the arms broke off, and I think it had like a crack. These are really old and they're chipped, and my mom had given them to me, and because they're kind of dated and old, so, and had a lot of chips on it, so they have this kind of look to them that's kind of like scary. So I painted those black again with the Rust-Oleum satin spray paint. And these are some of the castings that I made earlier when I was using the resin. And so I just got some of those and I decided to use my gilding wax to color those gold. So I kind of decided that I was going to go ahead and go over these with the dark wax and the DIY. I really liked the gold too, but I wanted it to have more of a antique vintage look. So I went ahead and went over them with the wax, and then I wiped it back. Now, I could have waited a little bit longer so that it didn't really wipe back that gold, but it did wipe back quite a bit of that gold, but it left like a gold shimmer, and it kind of looked like I don't know, almost like a white gold looking type. So I decided that I like that, so I'm going to go ahead and use that super glue again and glue that right onto the candle holder. So project 5 is this little kind of urn. This almost has almost like a lava type feeling to it. It has a lot of holes, like texture to it. So I decided that I was just going to go ahead and use the dark wax and go over the whole thing, pushing that wax into all that detail just to pick up all of the little nooks and crannies and all the little divots and all of the little holes that are in this, and making sure that I just push that in there, and then I'm gonna wipe it back. So I'm just applying it and wiping it back. I'm not doing the whole thing because I wanted to make sure that I got it off before it set up so that it just wasn't so dark. So I also want to make sure I get the top of this because you will be able to see that. So I'm just making sure that I get every part of it. I didn't do inside of there, but I did make sure I did around the rim. So with that, I'm going to grab my dark and decrepit dust also from DIY. And what I did was I kind of I went back and applied some of the wax so it was still like fresh and tacky. And then that's when I went in and applied the decrepit dust. So you saw me there apply some wax, and then I apply the dust, and that's how I went through, making sure that that decrepit dust was gonna stick to it. I just used my fingers and pushed that down. I want this to really look dirty, like it's been sitting out in a cemetery or something forever. So I grabbed these from a thrift store, I believe, and I think they were like $3, and there's 3 stems here. So I'm just cutting off the bottom just to make sure that they weren't so high to stick in the urn, because the hole in that is pretty shallow. So I'm going to grab what is this? Great stuff. And this is just foaming, for like insulation. And I'm going to fill that center up. So I fill that up and actually arrange the stems in there the way that I liked. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill that up around the stems, making sure that everything is kind of staying where I want it to stay. And, kind of going up and over the edge there a little bit. So I kind of got those situated and then let them sit for a couple of hours for that foam to set up. So once that's done, I have this little pail of odd and end moss and things like that. And I'm just going to go through there and grab some pieces that I like, that I think will look good together, and get the look that I'm going for. And using my glue gun, I'm just going to start applying that to the urn on top of that foam, making sure that all of that is covered over. So again, I'm going to grab some of those little skulls that I made from the resin, and I'm going to also glue some of those in there as well. So with this little tree, I was just thinking you could put some spider webs on it, put some spiders, or you could, hang some little ghost or something in it. So that's the way that I decorated it there. And I'm thinking that I'm gonna probably put this in my entryway on my entry table. So I really like the way that this came out. So thanks for watching. Keep a lookout for my other videos in this series, and I will see you soon.